You want to move to Mallorca because you've seen everything online and you're so excited to be here because this place has everything you've ever dreamed of. And I'm going to share with you a few things that I think you should consider before moving here. The first thing you're probably asking, why the hell should I listen to you? You haven't been living here for 10 plus years. And you're right, I haven't lived here for 100 plus years. I've only been here for a couple of months, but I've been on and off island for over the last few years. And I've lived in many beautiful places. I lived 8 years in Hawaii, I lived in Germany, I lived in Mexico, and now I'm here in Spain. And so I think I can give you a little bit of a rundown on why I think this place is really amazing, but also give you some ideas on why this place might not be the right fit for you. And I hope you can use the information to make a better decision whether this place is the right place for you, or maybe it's not. And even if I can give you just one reason to come or not to come, I think that would be a benefit for you to watch the whole video. I'm gonna start positive first because I think that's the right way to do it. And I'm gonna give you a few things that you should definitely consider before moving here at the end of the video. So make sure you watch all the way to the end. The first thing that is kind of a cliche, but it kind of tends to be true, is that people who come to Mallorca, and I'm talking especially about German people, because you will be surprised. This island has a lot of Germans, and I'm not talking about just you hear a few Germans. No, you go to the supermarket, you hear German. You go to the local hardware store, the people probably know how to speak German. It is so ridiculous, the amount of people who speak German here. And I remember a friend of mine came here and she was like, what, is this Germany? Is this like, and I think we're even joking in Germany that we say this is the 17th state because it's such an extension of Germany for some reason, because every German apparently loves to come to Mallorca, and it's just ridiculous how many Germans are here. So get used to that, which is also, I think, one of the points that I want to talk about later in the video, which is talking about the language issues here. The reason why so many Germans are coming here, because there are already a lot of Germans, and so German people love to be around German people apparently. So that's why a lot of Germans actually move here. And there is a little bit of a cliche here because there are two types of, especially German people who come here. It is the ones that are extremely successful and the ones that are struggling. And so you have a little bit of a divide of people here about the ones that are extremely rich, extremely successful financially, and you have those who are trying to become successful, and a lot of people trying to become realtors because they see a lot of luxury homes here. They see all these mansions and they think they're gonna be the next big realtor. And I'm sure there's a lot of success stories that just prove that. And I'm not wanting to discourage anyone, but there is a little bit of a gap between people who are extremely successful and extremely unsuccessful in a way financially, and that creates a little bit of a divide here, and it makes it a little bit difficult for people to keep up. And I think the problem with that is too that the jobs here are very, very limited. And I know I wanted to start off with the first positive note, but this is just something to keep in mind. Jobs are very limited. If you do not have a job lined up yet, it's very difficult to find jobs here unless you're in the tourism industry. And that is also a problem because the tourism here is it is a problem in a certain way. If you want to get a job in tourism, it's very seasonal. It's just over the summer. In the winter, the island is completely empty. And that is actually a positive aspect. Can you even hear me? Because these things are so loud. I think I'm going to move somewhere else. It's so loud, so I thought I'm going to move over here. The winter time, the island is so quiet. All the beaches are empty. A lot of the hotels are completely shut down. And so it's a very seasonal business here. And so the beaches are so beautiful in the winter. Every time I come here in the winter, I was just so surprised how empty the beach was. There was no one there. And obviously the water is cold, but it's just so incredibly beautiful. And then you compare it to the summer in August, July, you're like, oh my gosh, I can't even find a spot on the beach because it's so freaking crowded. And in the winter, it's just serene beauty, and it looks the same because the water is just crystal clear blue. It's absolutely stunning. And it is such a difference coming in the winter or coming here off season than being here on season. And so when you live here, you kind of have the fluctuation of like a lot of people on the island and you don't even know where to go, and it's very hot. And then in the winter, it's completely quiet, but a lot of restaurants and a lot of things are closed. And so keep that in mind when you come here, that the different lifestyle here fluctuates a lot just because the winter and the summer is so different, because tourism is just running over here in the summer and then completely dying down in the winter time. And so that's something to keep in mind when you come here. Another positive note on Mallorca is that it has incredibly fresh local produce. It is more expensive than other places. However, the produce here is so good. They have so many good local stores. The one I like is Agromat, which has all the local vendors here, and it's really, really good, the amount of quality produce they have here, and it just tastes so much better. The tomatoes taste so much better. Everything just tastes so much better, and that's something I find highly positive, that you can get high quality produce here. And yes, of course, they have all the main grocery stores, Aldi and Lidl, and like the big Mercadona, and they have like all these big grocery stores here. But I try to shop as much local as possible to support community here, and I think that's also something you should consider doing when moving here, that you kind of give back to the people who are from here and who are supporting this island. And so I think that's a beautiful aspect of life, because for me, food is a big portion of my life, and I think that makes your life more enjoyable. The next thing I love about Mallorca is obviously the stunning, serene beauty that it has to offer. It's just, in the winter time, you have those amazing orange fields, and then in summertime, you just have those serene, warm beaches, and it's just so incredibly beautiful and lush. The place here really looks like out of the books, and actually there's a lot of brands that come here to shoot their campaigns. And it's funny, when I go to the beach right here, I always think like, oh, I saw this in the newsletter I got just from Billabong. I guess they did their shooting here. And so that's really fun that there's a lot of beautiful, stunning places, very Pinteresty. But also keep in mind that place that you're looking for that looks so beautiful is probably around in the east or the north. In Palma, you will not find those types of beaches. So if you're living in Palma, the beach will not look like that. It will be around a 40-minute drive to get to a beach like that, which would be kind of like the east. And I guess my camera just died. I didn't realize it, and now I just kept talking without the camera rolling, but that's okay. I think third time is the charm. And so I'm going to continue where I left off. What I was saying is, when you are on the east side, you will find the most stunning, significant, beautiful beaches that you see all over the internet. Because in Palma, the beaches are not as nice. They're nothing compared to the ones that you find on the east and north side. So when you're staying in Palma, which there's a lot of places to stay, you probably will have to drive a 40-minute drive to get to those beaches. And make sure you're always early, because when you get early to the place, you're probably gonna find an empty beach. But if you go there late, I always joke to friends, because I always say, people, you can tell when the beach is getting crowded because it will be right on the dot at 10 o'clock, because people, or 10, 11, because people are in those big resorts and they just all have breakfast at the same time, and you can tell when the breakfast is done, everyone rushes to the beach, and so the beach gets crowded when everyone is done with their buffet food. So yeah, so I always try to make sure that you go early, especially if you have kids. Don't go so late, because it's so hot. Your kids, I see so many kids sometimes on the beach, and I'm like, it's so hot, you shouldn't be out right now. It's way too crazy, the sun. Make sure you go early in the mornings to really get the good experience. The next thing I was going to touch on, and especially in the beginning, I said the language barrier. And although there's so many Germans, and if you're German, you're probably going to get by really easy by just speaking German. But I think it's the most respectful thing to do where any place you go. I mean, when I lived in Mexico, that was my number one priority, to learn Spanish. And I think if you are considering moving to Spain, Mallorca, I think the first thing you really should hone down is how to speak the language, because I think it's so disrespectful if you go to a place and you don't speak the language, even though there might be an opportunity for you to get by with English and even German. I think even more German than English. I think it would be good if you learn the language. It's going to make you also feel more confident. It's going to make you feel better getting around a place that you don't know yet. So I think that's a huge, crucial part that I highly recommend you do. Learn Spanish. It will help you so tremendously, and I think it's the most respectful thing you can do if you are moving to a new place that you didn't grow up in. Another thing to consider is that Mallorca is more expensive than the mainland, obviously, because a lot of things have to be shipped here. So you have to consider that the living cost here is definitely higher than on the mainland from Spain, or in general other countries in Europe, just because everything has to be shipped out to the island. So just consider that living and housing and general expenses, because they're limited, are a lot more expensive. So if you come here, you need to calculate in for that, and remember that resources are very limited. There's a huge water issue on the island, so you got to make sure that you comply with all those rules, because there's certain rules you also have to remember, that if you do get a house, you can't just water your yard the way you want to. You have to really comply with the rules, because there's such limitation on water here. And I think that's also something that I highly recommend you do wherever you go. There's certain restrictions in certain areas. If you go to the north, there's certain restrictions that don't apply to the south. So
make sure you really get informed wherever you stay, that you know the rules and that you are aware what the situation is right there, so you're not going to get surprised and feel like, oh, I didn't know this. But yeah, the more you inform, the better it is. But really make sure you really look into the different areas of what the rules are and how life is there, because the island is so diverse, so different. It's very different to live in the north. It's very different to live in the south. And so really looking at the different areas, how shut down are those areas in the winter time, how lively are those areas in the summertime, and really make your research. Don't just move over here. Make sure you come here for sure for a vacation or something, just to figure out what's the best area to stay in. One thing that you will not get around is having a car. I think it's really hard to get around by bus here. You can do it, but it's definitely hard because there's not a lot of stops in the more rural areas. So it will be very difficult unless you live in the city center, or unless you always live in the city center of any city you go to. It is really important to get a car because you're going to be lost on the bus. It's going to be really, really difficult for you, not just to explore the island, but just the general life here. Without a car is very, very difficult, because I know in Germany you can get by without a car easily. There's really good transportation systems. And I know in other parts in the world as well, you can get by subway or a train very easily. But here they don't really have that great of a system. I know people are going to hate me for that, but the system is not the best if you are living here full time. So I highly recommend getting a car. And that's the next thing. Do not get a nice car. People are very difficult here when it comes to driving in terms of parking. I think our car got jammed up probably like 10 times already. It was just parked and someone would just like, and I've seen it firsthand where people go into parking stalls and I was like, I cannot believe this is happening right now. It sounds like out of a movie in Paris, because people would just back in and forth, banging cars front and back without even being worried about it. So people are not the greatest when it comes to being respectful of other people's cars for some reason. And I know it's not everybody, I know. But I've seen it many, many times. And so not having the nicest car makes you not feel as bad when something happens to it. I've seen people drive the nicest cars and they're just like, wow, this is amazing. And they try to get a big car. Do not get a big car. You will not be able to literally pass the roads because the roads are tiny in the little city centers. I was surprised when I first saw it. I was like, how are we even going to make it? Because a lot of times people have to back out. It's not even a two-way road, even the one-way road, especially if they even have cars parked on the side. You will be surprised. Sometimes it's really hard to pass by. You sometimes even have to move onto the sidewalk because otherwise you will not fit, especially if you have a bigger car. So driving a small car, especially for those Germans who are really important about their car and they love their car and it's the most important part of their life, don't get a nice car. You will regret it. Don't get a big car. You will regret it. Get a small car. You will be thanking me 10 times later because you will get parking stalls. You will be able to drive through the city because literally you cannot pass through some streets if you have a big car. And yeah, just remember, not getting a big car is better for everybody. It's a different lifestyle here. It's not... I know when I was living in Hawaii, everyone was having trucks and it made sense because of the surfboards and it's just big parking stalls. But in Spain, tiny stalls, small streets, no good place to have a great, big, huge truck. So just get some small car. You will be much better off with that. I hope this video helps you make a better decision. And just one thing I hopefully make clear in this video, that you have to be so respectful of the place. You have to be so... I go collect trash every day when I'm in Spain because I cannot believe how many people just chuck out their garbage cans just out of the car. Like the amount of trash you will find in the reserve, people just throwing their cans, they're just toiletries, like everything out of the window, and you feel like, what's happening here? But really, one thing to remember is this is an island, and be respectful of it. Not just obviously the people, but also the land. Just don't trash your stuff. Don't leave your stuff around. I just really get so upset when I see people just leave their entire trash bag and just throw it out the window. And you're like, how is this even possible? How is this, like, people have no feeling of sense, of common sense. And it's a lot of the tourists. It's a lot of people who are not from the island that are just trashing this place, and it's absolutely horrendous. And so please don't be that person. Please don't be that person that trashes the place. Please take more trash with you than you ever left anywhere. Never left any trash, but just like be mindful of it. It's so insane to me that there's still people literally rolling down their windows and just throwing the trash out. It's nuts. So make sure you're really respectful. Make sure you learn the language when you come here. Make sure you're being just a kind, generous person. So this place can actually welcome you with open arms, and don't be a person that just takes a lot. So that's just something to remember. I know there's a lot of protests right now going on with tourism, and that's such a huge issue, and I totally understand the problem with that. I think for everyone who does decide to come here, give more than you take and just be as respectful as you possibly can. I think that's the only thing I can say to that. Yeah, I hope these tips were helpful for you, and I hope you have a great time deciding, and I hope you will make the right decision for you. And if you have any questions, let me know, and I'd love to see you in the next video.